The aroma of brewing coffee filled the air as Joffrey wrestled with a philosophical quandary that had sprung from a conversation with his mother the night before. He pondered the inherent right to deceive, to manipulate truth, to mislead, and the unsettling ramification that there could be no guarantee of truthfulness. He asked himself, shouldn't people be allowed to deceive the masses if the masses are that gullible? I mean, if one chose, every statement to the masses could be interpreted as a lie or the truth. His thoughts swirled as the coffee machine hissed and gurgled, punctuating his inner dialogue. Joffrey rubbed his temples, trying to make sense of his mother's assertion that truth was a fragile thing. But not everyone can handle the truth, because it can cut, like a knife. Joffrey thought deeper, asking himself, was honesty a societal construct, or does it have an intrinsic value? Meanwhile, sunlight streamed through the window of Sheila's bedroom, gently nudging Kim awake. The room was cozy, its soft lavender walls bathed in a golden hue. With a casual stretch, Kim, listening to the murmur of voices emanating from the kitchen, knew Sheila and Adeze were already up and talking. Their tones rose and fell with an almost musical cadence, a sign of their bond. It was almost as if Sheila had tapped into Joffrey's thoughts about honesty and truth. Yes, their connection was that deep. Did your people have any laws or statutes concerning people who lied, without infringing upon their rights? Sheila's voice carried clearly to Adeze's ears. Adeze, sipping coffee from one of Sheila's favorite ceramic mugs, a speckled blue and white piece handcrafted by a local artisan, replied thoughtfully, the elders did establish a law that in order to be a viable candidate, one must pass a truth test, but only for representatives of the people. Any other person is free to lie or distort the truth. Why only those who seek to represent others, and not everyone? Sheila pressed, leaning forward, her gaze intent. In my view, Adeze said, placing her mug gently on the table, it is essential to know the truthfulness of those who represent you. This builds trust that those individuals are there to serve us and not to exploit us. The scent of toasted bread mingled with the coffee aroma as Kim entered, her presence brightening the room. Good morning, she said, her voice carrying a cheerful lilt. Sheila turned, wrapping Kim in a warm embrace and planting a soft kiss on her forehead. Good morning, love, Sheila replied. Adeze watched them with a serene smile and a warm gaze. Sheila quickly filled Kim in on their conversation. Just as she finished, a knock sounded at the door. Who is it? Sheila called as she walked towards the door. It's Joffrey, came the muffled reply. Sheila opened the door and Joffrey stepped in and enveloped her in a hug before extending the same greeting to Kim and Adeze. How was your night? Joffrey asked. Later that morning, Joffrey felt a discomfort that seemed to grow with every passing minute. He had a question, an unsettling feeling he needed to air, but it was hard to put into words. Finally, he decided to address it. He approached Sheila and asked her to go with him outside. She said, yes. Then Joffrey asked the rest of the room. Hey guys, would you mind if I borrow Sheila for a few minutes? He asked, his voice polite, but tinged with curiosity. I wanted to chat with her about something. Kim and Adeze, sitting comfortably at the kitchen's bar, exchanged a quick look. Adeze, ever the easygoing one, waved it off with a carefree smile. No, go ahead. We're just sitting here, talking. The sun, having finally pushed past the lingering clouds, wrapped the landscape in a surprising warmth for what should have been a winter morning. But then again, this was Texas, where the weather was unpredictable. One moment it could be chilly, the next, a light breeze carried the promise of a spring-like reprieve. As they stepped outside, the sunlight warmed their skin, casting shadows on the sidewalk as Joffrey led Sheila away from the building. He was unusually quiet for a moment, walking beside her, his hands tucked into the pockets of his jacket. He was gathering his thoughts. Sheila, noticing his thoughtful mood, glanced at him curiously. "What's on your mind, Joffrey?" He turned to her, his brow furrowed, and the look in his eyes was more serious than she'd seen him in a while. "What do you think of Adaeze, Sheila? Is she honest? Do you think she genuinely wants to help us?" Their footsteps echoed softly on the pavement as they continued to meander, the day's warmth making it easy to forget that it was still technically winter. The cold had been driven away by an unexpected sun, but Joffrey's words felt heavy, his tone reflective. Sheila considered his question carefully before responding. "Adaeze is intelligent," Sheila said thoughtfully, her voice laced with admiration. "She's strikingly beautiful too, and she's been incredibly open with Kim and me. There's something about her, Joffrey. She doesn't seem to have a filter. Her honesty is almost childlike. It's refreshing in a way. I think she's good for you." Joffrey chuckled softly, the hint of amusement in his eyes. "Adaeze and I aren't like that, Sheila. But I agree. She's smart and beautiful, and her honesty has been refreshing. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. I remember watching a movie once and it got me thinking. It said that living in a perfect world might not actually be the best thing for humans, that too much truth could be a burden." Sheila raised an eyebrow, intrigued by his sudden shift in thought. "Did she tell you about the truth machine?" Joffrey asked, his curiosity palpable. Joffrey and Sheila were speed-walking back to the apartment, the heat pressing down on them like someone cranked the oven and left the door open. Joffrey's shirt clung to his back, drenched in sweat, and by the time they made it to Sheila's door, he looked like he'd been through a storm. Sheila unlocked the door, and the rush of cool air hit them like a blessing. Inside, Kim greeted Sheila with one of those dramatic, exaggerated kisses, the kind that screamed, "I missed you!" even though Sheila had only been gone for a few hours. Adaeze was on the couch, legs crossed, lost in a book. She glanced up as they walked in and immediately zeroed in on Joffrey. His usual spark wasn't there. He looked drained, like someone had dimmed his internal light. "What's going on, Joffrey?" Adaeze asked, her tone light, but with a hint of concern. Joffrey dropped into a chair, catching the towel Sheila tossed to him. He wiped his face, letting out a long sigh. "It's just wild to me that we need machines to make people tell the truth," he said, shaking his head. "Like, think about it. My people have been fighting for centuries. Slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights, all of it. And people died just so we could have basic human rights." He paused, looking down at the floor. "And here we are, still fighting. We can't even trust people, to be honest. Now we need machines to tell us who's lying. And the craziest part? Most of the lies are coming from white folks. But it's not just them." He looked up, his jaw tightening. "Some of our own people, the ones we lift up, turn around and sell us out. Entertainers, athletes. They'll take our support and then cozy up to whoever's got the biggest check. Where are the Josephine Bakers and Harry Belafontes of today? Instead, we've got folks like Lil Wayne, Ice Cube, Killer Mike, and Terry Crews saying stuff that straight up hurts us." Joffrey leaned forward, his frustration bubbling over. "And Terry? Man, don't get me started. Comparing doctors to athletes like LeBron James? Saying doctors don't deserve more money because they only help a handful of patients while athletes reach millions. That's trash logic. Think about it. Who saved that Buffalo Bills player when his heart stopped on the field? Not an athlete. Not some millionaire financial guru. It was the medical team, and they're probably making a fraction of what those other people earn. Where are our values?" The room went quiet, the weight of his words settling in. Kim fiddled with the bracelet, Sheila leaned against the wall, and Adaeze wiped at a tear that slipped down her cheek before anyone could notice. Adaeze finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "It's hard to hear this and not feel helpless. But you're right. It starts with truth. We have to be honest about what's wrong and call it out, even if it makes people uncomfortable." It had been just over 24 hours since the Asinwin's ship entered Earth's airspace. Cloaked to avoid detection, the vessel utilized advanced reflective capabilities that rendered it nearly invisible to Earth's primitive radar systems, appearing no more significant than a small bird. The Asinwin had spent much of their journey preparing for this moment, but their primary focus was still on tracking down Adaeze and her ship. When Adaeze exited the wormhole, the Asinwin had fired what appeared to be a weapon. Acting on instinct and caution, Adaeze executed an evasive maneuver, banking sharply to avoid the perceived threat. Unbeknownst to her, the projectile wasn't a weapon, but a sophisticated tracking device. The device adhered to her spacecraft's exterior, its tiny yet powerful transmitter now broadcasting her location across the void. The Asinwin's technology had always been a step ahead of Alkebulan advancements, a fact that had shaped much of the uneasy dynamic between their civilizations. The Alkebulans, however, were resourceful and resilient. Many of their technological advancements stemmed from knowledge smuggled out by Asinwin defectors. These defectors brought with them designs for advanced war technologies, enabling the Alkebulans to survive encounters with their more technologically advanced adversaries. But survival was not the same as evasion. The Asinwin had tracked Adaeze's vessel since it left the Martian system, a task made effortless by their superior equipment. Now they faced a more challenging task: locating Adaeze herself. Upon landing their spacecraft discreetly, far from prying eyes and in Adaeze's vicinity, the Asinwin initiated a meticulous study of Earth's history and culture. Their computer-like minds absorbed and processed information at an astonishing rate. Within hours, they had learned the basics of human society, fashioning disguises, vehicles, and clothing to blend seamlessly into Earth's modern world. This adaptability was a hallmark of Asinwin operations. Unlike the Alkebulans, who often operated solo, the Asinwin always worked in pairs. Trust was a luxury their society could not afford for solitary agents. The Asinwin turned their attention to one of Earth's most influential figures, Lone Muskrat. His name appeared more repeatedly in their research as their search included more of today's time. He showed up as a beacon of wealth and power in a society driven by an archaic economic system. Why is he one of the most influential individuals on this planet? The crew mused aloud as he delved deeper into his research. "I got it!" shouted the crew member, his voice suddenly in harmony with his mind. "Explain yourself," the navigator commanded, his curiosity now sharpened. "It's all coming together. Lone Muskrat appears to be the wealthiest individual on this planet. This planet operates under an ancient economic system our ancestors abandoned long ago: capitalism." The navigator's thoughtful expression turned into one of understanding. "Ah, capitalism. It's been centuries since we left that behind. An economic system riddled with inequities and short-sighted greed. This presents a fascinating opportunity." Capitalism, as the Asinwin remembered, had once thrived on their home world. But its flaws, concentrated wealth, environmental degradation, and societal divisions had led to its inevitable collapse. Their society had replaced it with a more sustainable and equitable system. Observing Earth now, the Asinwin saw reflections of their own troubled past. The crew member added, "Under capitalism, individuals like Lone Muskrat can amass vast fortunes while many others struggle to survive. Profit takes precedence over well-being, and the planet's resources are exploited without thought for the future." The navigator nodded. "Precisely. It incentivizes relentless growth at the expense of everything else. This culture of consumerism and waste can be manipulated." The Asinwin's mission shifted subtly. Initially, their goal was to eliminate Adaeze and secure their strategic advantage. But now, they saw an opportunity to exploit Earth's economic system to sow dependency and chaos. By deepening humanity's reliance on capitalism, the Asinwin could create a fertile ground for control and manipulation. As they approached Lone Muskrat's sprawling estate in their Earth-disguised vehicle, the navigators' resolve solidified. This system, it's ripe for exploitation. We'll introduce subtle innovations to entrench their dependency on outdated practices while amplifying the inequities. Their greed will ensure they do most of the work for us. An evil grin spread across the navigator's face as he imagined the possibilities. Deception was second nature to the Asinwin, and Earth presented a playground of vulnerabilities to exploit. They pulled up to the estate, their plan taking shape. Before contacting Lone Muskrat, they would do more research. You can never learn enough about the nuances of Earth's culture and develop a strategy. For now, they would play their roles convincingly, their advanced minds working tirelessly behind the scenes. The Asinwin had no intention of leaving this mission to chance. Deception, cunning, and technological superiority would guide their every move. Earth would not know what hit it.